welcome to Off the Shelf, the half-termly library vlog. I'm Mr. Humphreys.
And I'm Miss Rhea, and I'm going to introduce the recommended reads for 7 to 9 for the new books that have just come into the library. And I'm going to start off with my first fiction choice, which is A Million to One by the author of Hanny and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating, which was a very popular book that came out last year. And according to Waterstones, this is a rollicking heist thriller set on board the doomed RMS Titanic, as a quartet of very different girls attempt to steal a priceless copy of the Rubaiyat.
Oh.
Now, if you don't know what that is, the Rubaiyat is a collection of Persian poems written by an astronomer called Omar Khayyam. I think I'm saying that right. The version that was on the Titanic was being transported to America as it had been sold at auction from a buyer. It was a one-of-a-kind, sought-after piece that was like specially bound and jewel encrusted and things like that. And at the time it was set, like the Titanic sunk, it was extremely, extremely valuable.
Sounds it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But today it's actually at the bottom of the sea with the Titanic, because it's sunk with the ship, so it's still there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's quite a cool piece of history. Another version was made and resold, but this original version, the one that was worth a fortune,
It's at the bottom of the
is
ocean.
at the bottom of the ocean,
The
still with the
Atlantic.
Titanic
Okay.
nowadays, yeah. But this story is about a group of girls, all, you know, from different walks of life, trying to kind of go on a heist to steal this piece that they know is worth a fortune.
Okay.
So, yeah, it sounds quite interesting. I think it's an LGBTQ friendly book for a younger audience, which is also something that might be appealing
Yeah,
to
her
people.
last book certainly was. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, if you're interested in history and you're interested in kind of mystery heist thrillers, that sounds like a good one to pick up.
Absolutely.
The next one I want to talk about is Saving Neverland by Abby Elphinstone, and she is the author of Sky Song, which is another quite popular read. And this is basically a modern retelling of Peter Pan.
Yeah, the title kind of gives that away.
It does, but it sounds really lovely. It just sounds like a really easy sort of before bed read where you can go back to Neverland. Basically, if you're someone that is a fan of Peter Pan, you might have read that book 100 times over, and this is kind of another way to access that world and, you know, have a bit of adventure. And I think by the sounds of it, it's all about, you know, the importance of family and sort of making friends in unexpected places, and the importance of having fun and not growing up, because the main character convinces herself that she turns 10 years old, she's too old to have fun with her younger brother. And by the sounds of it, Neverland is going to teach her that actually you're never too old.
And then she's growing up too fast.
Yeah.
None of us are too old to play, are we?
No,
Or
you
have
can
fun.
always have fun and explore
Yeah.
and have adventures, and it sounds like that kind of read. So, nice light-hearted one.
Good. Lovely.
My non-fiction choice is a book called You Don't Know What War Is by Eva Skaliecka. I think I said that right as well. And this is basically a young girl's diary following the early days of the war in Ukraine, and it's been published. So pretty much it's her exact diary. It goes through all the different days. It even has examples of printed texts that she had with her friends as it was happening. So this sounds like it's in a similar vein to Anne Frank's diary, in that it's a real person, a real young person's account of exactly what's happening. And as the title, you know, indicates, you don't know what war is. Most people don't. Most people have never lived through that on a day-to-day. So this is kind of a bit of an eye-opener in terms of what it actually means to go through something like that.
Yes.
From someone's point of view. So, yeah, not as light-hearted as the last read, but
Quite
very
the opposite.
important.
Oh yeah, and yeah, you mentioned Anne Frank there, so it could be. Well, we can't possibly say it's going to be the next diary of Anne Frank, but for something that's going on right now, could be
and
an
it's
important
a young
snapshot.
person's real life,
Yeah.
lived experience, which, you know, it's not just something that's happening on the news. It's not just something that's happening in other countries. It happens to real people in this.
Personalised.
Yeah,
humorous.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
an example of that. So
Okay.
those are my 3 choices.
Okay, thanks for sharing. That sounds like a novel take on a current ongoing issue. So thank you for that. Right, so what have we got for older readers that are coming to the library lately? Well, I'm going to start with this one, The Witches of Vardo by Anya Bergen. Now, we've got this phenomenon going on, don't we? They call it witcherature, which is a bit of a mouthful. Think of the Wednesday series that we've had on Netflix lately, and we've had loads of books out in this vein as well. You know, like The Mercies by Kieran Lord Hargrave is one that I can think of. Now, there's a theory going around that the reason that literature is so popular is that, you know, witches used to be persecuted, you know, burn the witch, and there's a theory going around that there's a lot of minority groups being persecuted. You know, lots. I'm sure you can think of a few examples.
Yeah.
But if you focus on women, you can think of, for instance, the Roe versus Wade thing from the USA.
Yeah.
You know, the abortion rights,
Yeah.
and then we've also got remember Sarah Everard. I mean, you could argue that in itself, but also the vigil when they were protesting and the heavy-handed police response. So, you know, women's rights have come under the microscope, and, you know, women are a minority group, of course, but the idea is that they are persecuted, and so that's why witch literature has come back into fashion. So, fittingly enough, this is about that very thing, about women being persecuted. It's got a trio of strong female leads. Their names are Sigrid, Maren, and Anna. And they're the protagonists in this tale that's set in 17th century Norway. Now, this was a time which was very dangerous for women because they could be accused of being a witch just for dancing. So, so you know, you think women got it bad now, then
you can't even imagine. No.
Exactly. So, now obviously, it is a dark kind of fantasy. There's witchcraft, therefore magic. So there's almost a sense of wonder going on, and it also draws upon centuries of religious folklore, tradition, Scandinavian folklore. So it looks set to be a big hit, really, and it's got lots of big names. Christy Lefterry, Hannah Kent have given it praise on the back, so that should help propel it. So on the subject of authors praising other authors, I'm going to segue very neatly into this.
Very nice.
Thank you. This little treasure of a book called What Writers Read, collected together by Pandora Sykes, the broadcast journalist. So in essence, it's what the title suggests. It's what a series of writers say is their favourite book. And it's a bunch of prolific writers saying, you know, why this book was so important to them, why it made such an impact on them. So we got newer voices, you know, we've got people like Paris Lees and Dolly Alderton. We've also got more established names in here too, such as Sebastian Vokes and Benjamin Zephaniah. So, you know, we're running the whole gamut here. And essentially, it serves as a reminder that authors are writers because they are readers. They are readers before they're writers.
You have to read to write.
Absolutely. So budding authors out there, take notes. Yeah, if you want to be a writer, you need to be a reader as well. Now, Sykes, in the introduction to this book, she notes that each one of them brings their own specific personal detail as to why they love it, their own individualised story. And in doing that, they give us a snapshot into their own lives as well, which is a good way of making it directly resonate with us on multiple levels, you know, the reader. Yeah, so again, almost like we're part of a reading family, if you will. And guess what I did there? I segued again into this one. The World, A Family History by Simon Sebag Montefiore. Now, this is one of the, you know, there's been quite a few history of the world epic books over the years. This one is hefty, unlike the last one, this one is a hefty term because it is very comprehensive, history of the world, just to show that, you know, all good books come in all different shapes and sizes. Now, Montefiore is a very well-established historian. You know, he's written a lot of great books that are highly regarded. Now, what separates this book from other vast history of the world is as it says there, it puts family at the centre, because history is the study of people, as any history teacher will tell you, as Miss Rio, who's a bit of a historian herself, will tell you. And what do people have in common? Well, they have some sort of family. I mean, again, in various guises, in various shapes and sizes, but in this one, it puts family in the middle of it. And it starts from the very earliest civilizations right through to the present day. And yes, there are going to be families in there that we all know of, the well-known figures, but there's some that you might not know about too, such as we've got the very first female novelist in history in here. And we've also got a Moroccan pirate queen in here, just to give you two examples of people you, I'm guessing almost all of you won't have heard of. So it's a huge achievement, a huge book, and a huge achievement. So I think any historian might want to check it out.
Yeah, no, that looks really cool.
So Simon Sebag Montefiore. Okay, so to those are some recommendations from recent arrivals, and next up we've got our section on our off-the-shelf classic, established classic. Now, as we film this, it's Wednesday the 25th today, and 2 days' time it's Holocaust Memorial Day, as I'm sure you all know. Now, the Holocaust is is a dark chapter in history. It's a very important chapter in history that teaches us lessons that we must never, ever forget. And there's lots of literature out there to try and make sense of the Holocaust. One work that I want to draw to your attention, I haven't got it with me because someone's got it out on loan, is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Now, I actually discussed this book in my graphic novels Lit Sock, which I did 2 or 3 years ago. Now, the theme of of Holocaust Memorial Day this year is ordinary people.
Okay.
Because, if you think of, for example, something like Schindler's List, I think sometimes we look at like the heroes, the so-called heroes, but actually the Holocaust is primarily ordinary people, whether they were victims, whether they were perpetrators, whether they were bystanders, they were first and foremost ordinary people. And the protagonist of Mouse is an ordinary person.
Yeah.
His name is Vladik. He is the father of Art, the author of Mouse. And the graphic novel format that Art Spiegelman chooses to tell Mouse in allows him to sort of put a sort of fresh spin on it. He can tell it in a very sensitive, clever, but also brave and innovative way, because he, for instance, the Jews are depicted as mice, and the Germans are depicted as cats. So just sort of like acts as a sort of like a symbol, a very sort of powerful symbol there. Another brave thing about it that I like about it is that Vladik is a very massively flawed character. He's not particularly likable. He's got a very difficult, strained relationship with Art, his son, and he certainly isn't an Anne Frank, as Miss Rio mentioned. He's quite the opposite of someone like Anne Frank. But that, of course, succeeds in humanising. Think of the theme for ordinary people with all their foibles. It succeeds in humanising him rather than glorifying him, which is something that is an easy trap to perhaps fall in when we think of Holocaust survivors. So it won the Pulitzer Prize, which is, a fantastic achievement in itself. So Mouse arguably is one of the greatest graphic novels ever written, and it just goes to show that graphic novels, as I said in my Lit Sock, can be great literature.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a classic well worth seeking out as we mark Holocaust Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Okay, so up next we have our special guests. So this episode we have got Mrs. Slaughter from the Learning Support Department, and she's going to tell you all about some of her reading likes, dislikes and habits. So over to you, Mrs. Slaughter.
So a recent read that I enjoyed is The Word is Murder, written by Anthony Horowitz. This is the first book in a series of 4, and I have to say that I have read all 4 now. I find them quite gripping. It's unusual in that it's about a Detective Hawthorne, who's an interesting character, and he wishes for a book to be written about his cases that he solves. So he approaches Anthony Horowitz to actually write his story, and so there is a little bit of a blur between reality and fiction, as Anthony Horowitz is actually in it as the Watson to Holmes. I had quite a few books from my childhood. One that I vividly remember is a beautiful poetry book that had beautiful, really, really colourful illustrations. It was quite simple poetry, such as Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean. And so you see, between them both, they licked the platter clean. So you get the sort of idea of what this book was like. I also had a very precious copy of Peter Pan, which I liked, had a lovely blue cover, and I was just explaining to Mr. Humphreys that I have actually just recently moved house, and I have been going through lots of boxes trying to find these. But also I spoke to my school friends. We meet every week on Zoom, and they said to me, have you included Agatha Christie? So in my early teenage years, I was really fond of Agatha Christie. I had the whole list of her books, read through them, ticked them off as I went through them. And then later teens, my other friend said, well, what about Thomas Hardy? Because I did really enjoy Thomas Hardy when I was an older teenager. I particularly like Thomas Hardy because of his description of the countryside. I just love the plots, that not everything always goes very well. So they're my most memorable books from my younger years and childhood. I thought about this quite hard. I started reading The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry, and it's a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And the thing about the difficulty with overrated books is that generally if I'm not enjoying them, I don't persevere. And so I did not persevere with this one. So having been given this delightful opportunity, I decided to revisit it. And in fact, I've started it and I'm actually quite enjoying it. So although it doesn't quite fit the category, what I would suggest that you do if you're not particularly keen on a book is to actually revisit it perhaps at a later date, and your experiences in life, your age, you might find that you actually enjoy it. I have quite a few books, and recipe books. I turn to. I've got probably about 40 or 50 recipe books, so I've not brought them all today. And one of them is Gino's Italian Coastal Escape. I love cooking. I love looking at combining new flavours, new ingredients, and also I just love it when you get really nice pictures. There's a beautiful picture in this one of Italy. So I do really enjoy flicking through those. Got Nigella Express, where there is an absolutely fantastic lazy loaf recipe. I would recommend this one to everybody because it tastes delicious and it really doesn't take very much effort. I might find another recipe in there when I flick through it again. And this rather nice book as well, Apples for Jam. And it's got lots of, again, lovely pictures, lots of ideas, risotto with fried egg on top. And you can see that this has gone on for many years. This is my Delia Smith from about the 1980s. It's very well thumbed, lost most of its cover. Okay, so one of my desert island books would be Life Between the Tides by Adam Nicholson. And it's quite an informative book. How do sandhoppers inherit an inbuilt compass from their parents? How do crabs understand the tide? I feel that this would be a good choice for the desert island because I might be surrounded by quite a few rock pools and I can learn more about them as I discover. Again, it has got quite a few nice pictures in it as well. My second book is by Sarah Raven, who is actually married to Adam Nicholson. And it's an illustrated guide to 500 wildflowers. They're mainly found in the British Isles, but I'm hoping that on the desert island there'll be a few mountains and a few wildflowers. So I'd be really, really happy if I could identify those flowers by using Sarah Raven's book. And then my third one, I've only got a copy of the cover because I've actually lent this to a friend, and it's the Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. So this is all about, it's a memoir about her experiences in World War II, and she was very close to her family, 2 sisters and a father, and they were watchmakers or watch repairers. And what they did was that they helped during the occupation in the Netherlands. They actually hid people and helped the Jews. I really enjoy the ethos of this. There's a really strong family connection, their loyalty to their family, and also to their Christian faith. She actually prays. She gets taken prisoner, and she actually prays for the guards that have to, carry out what they've been told they need to do. So it's It's really inspiring. It's a true story, which I always like, and it is a story that you can read again and again for inspiration.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Slaughter. Now, to sort of round us off, I'm going to just give us a little bit of literary trivia. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, a book called In Search of Lost Time, also known as Remembrance of Things Past, because it's a French book, by Marcel Proust, is the longest book, coming in at over 4,000 pages. For reference, this book, Duck's Newbury Port, is just over 1,000 pages long. So times this by 4, and you get the longest book on record. Tells you everything you need to know, I think.
Yeah, it's considered to be a great book, but I think some of the things he must have written about, he like spends a whole page like describing the petals of a flower.
Yeah.
So
He went for it.
yes, so if you want rich language, everyone, then there you go. All right.
Yeah, there you are.
All right, thanks, Mr. Rio. And just to finish things off, it's competition announcement time. So yeah, who's reading? So in the last episode, the teacher who was reading was Mr. Thornton. So well done if you guessed that right. And let's, once again, the box has magically appeared. So I'm just going to have a little rummage inside. And our winner is Olivia in Year 8. So well done, Olivia. A bar of chocolates coming your way. So if you want to have a chance to win a bar of chocolate yourself, time to enter the next competition. So tell us who's reading. Okay, so as always, if you could please either put your entrance in the box on the library counter or email sslibrarianteam@servicelive.com, and we will announce the winner and the teacher who's reading in the next episode. So until then, take care and keep reading. Bye.
Bye.